Welcome. You are tuned into Municipal Focus. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I will be your host, your guide for this conversation. Joining us today is Mr. Matt Dyer. Matt is an elected official in town serving as a member of the Board of Selectmen, and he currently is the chairman. Matt, welcome to the program, or I should say, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure being on, Kevin. So thanks for having me.
When I pitched the idea of you and I having a conversation, one particular topic was the state of the town. And this isn't the state of the town per se, as to how folks may think it is, but I want to get your perspective on where the town is at this particular juncture. Here we are, early 2022.
Sure. Right at the moment, the state of the town is good. I see a lot of opportunity down the road if we're strategic about it. The past year has definitely been another tough year. We still have COVID in the picture, and with all the different variants going on, we still have the original strain out there, we have the Delta strain out there, and we have the Omicron variant out there. And I know in the news we really just have been talking about Omicron, but we haven't been talking about the fact that the initial two strains are still out there, and that we're still in a public health crisis, and that we need to still be vigilant, practice good hygiene where we can, and most important is being civil with one another. I know right now everyone is tired of COVID. I'm tired of it. No one wants it around, but I know that patience are starting to wear thin with some folks, and that we don't want to work together. We kind of want to pit one against each other just to try to get through it, and that's not the way to go about it. But besides COVID, the town of Hanson, we had some challenges over the past year. We started off 2021 with John Stanbrook as our town administrator, and he found a different opportunity, which is totally fine. But we had to backfill that with an administrative assistant that was still relatively new. And we ultimately had to fill that position as well. So right at the moment, the Board of Selectmen's office, we're still gaining our sea legs, so to say, and trying to establish ourselves and lead the town in the right direction. But we've also faced other challenges, not just those two personnel challenges, but we also backfilled over 8 to 10 different positions in the town. So we were running on a bare bones operation through most of 2021. We have most of those positions filled now, which is really exciting stuff, because now we can really start working on projects that are going to make impacts for those at home.
So it's worth noting you talked about COVID and dealing with COVID, but part of the assistance that we have seen from the federal government, not only under the Trump administration in the form of CARES Act funding, but also now under President Biden, we have the American Rescue Plan Act, fondly known as ARPA. Talk to me about the town being able to utilize funding like CARES Act funds and the potential for ARPA.
Absolutely. So ARPA, I'll back up for the COVID, the CARES Act funds. I don't have the figure with me right now, but we've gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars in reimbursements. So anything that the town wouldn't have spent money on in the past, and it's strictly COVID related, is all reimbursable by the federal government, which is great. It doesn't matter who's in office, they made it happen. And it's exactly what you said. You have to acknowledge those who got us there. It was the Trump administration and the Congress and the House, the Congress and the Senate, that all got us to the point where we have these funds. Because otherwise, without these funds, I don't know where the town would be right now. I know we wouldn't be in the position we are now with kids back in school, because a big chunk of money went to the schools to make sure the kids were back in their seats at the schools learning. And then with with the ARPA money, right at the moment, it looks like we just kind of got a peek at some of the funds. I believe it's $200,000 going towards the soccer field project down at the Hanson Middle School. $30,000 is going to the Small Business Association, or going towards or targeting small business here in the town of Hanson. Another 30,000, I believe, is going towards a nonprofit here in Hanson to help with substance abuse. So there are funds trickling in. You know, the Board of Selectmen didn't necessarily have a say in where the money was going to be allocated. That all happened up at Beacon Hill. I know that right at the moment, I wouldn't be putting money towards a turf field when we have other infrastructure problems here in town, but it is what it is. And that's kind of where we are with the CARES Act and ARPA money. You know, it definitely made an impact here in our community. So we were able to do, going back to CARES Act real quick, we were able to do testing, you know, drive-through testing in the heart of it. I know we're just receiving some rapid tests, take-home tests that we'll be distributing to the public sometime in the future. And yeah, it's truly been a resource.
Is there any chance that the town could be eligible for additional ARPA money, or does that remain to be seen?
I think right at the moment it's remained to be seen. I think that, you know, there was so much criticism of Beacon Hill for kind of sitting on the money as long as they did, that they tried to get rid of most of it where they could. But you still don't know what might happen. You know, if money gets returned, or, you know, they find that this project is no longer feasible, there might be additional money, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that one.
I know it's too early for anybody to really assess the governor's final budget of his term. Governor Charlie Baker, he did release his fiscal year 2023 budget. As an elected official, as somebody who has been in the trenches when it comes to making sure that every year's fiscal year budget is sound and takes care of the people, what are some of your hopes as to what this budget that has been put forth, the first one by the governor will address?
Yeah, I'm optimistic about this. You know, initially, you know, over the last 4 years of serving in this position, you know, the initial cherry sheets that are coming out right now, I've seen, you know, oh, there's no increase in local aid. You know, there's no increase for circuit breaker or transportation, or, you know, or just overall infrastructure for the town. So I'm pretty optimistic right at the moment where we are. They're discussing a 2.7% increase in local aid, and that's a pretty good number. You know, definitely not keeping up with inflation, as we all know right now, but it's more money rather than a cut. So I'm looking at it as a win, just because usually at this time they're more conservative than they are in June, or where, you know, May, when they're really starting to come out with their final draft of the budget. So right now, if they're discussing increasing, we're looking good. If they were talking about maybe not, I'd be a little bit nervous. But right now, I'm confident that the governor's budget that was just released a couple of weeks ago is looking good for the town of Hanson.
I would ask you this. I'm sure you're not someone who has been blind to what's been going on when it comes to pricing. Everything is going up. Does that concern you, that we're seeing the price of operating going up? And, you know, while it's great that we're seeing seeing a bump when it comes to local aid, are you concerned that if prices continue to skyrocket, that it's going to eat into the town's budget?
Yep, it will. From anywhere from buying raw materials to complete a project for the roads and culverts or whatnot, to just even salary lines, Kevin. Right now, we're very fortunate to have backfilled the positions that we had, but we're backfilling positions right at the top of those salary lines that are allocated, you know, on the charts. just because everyone expects to be paid a little bit more. And our our wage and personnel spreadsheets don't necessarily keep up with um, doesn't really keep up with what's happening modern day. We don't update them every year. We just update them maybe every few years or as when needed. So it's funny when you go to a town meeting and people see all these salary increases. They just hear salary increases and they don't really look at the number of like, oh yeah, you know what? We do have to increase the salary line of caretakers up at Camp Kawani, and people kind of get all jazzed up that they hear salary increase, but we have to, or otherwise we wouldn't be in guidelines with minimum wage. So we do have to increase salary lines from $14 to $14.50, but to retain good talent, we're going to have to pay a little bit more than that too, and that goes for all positions.
Interesting that you say that, and it kind of helps me think of another question to ask you, especially when it comes to cost of living. I mean, you're somebody who is business friendly, and I know that you like to visit a lot of the local stores, whether it's in Hanson or in and around Hanson. I mean, do you hear whispers from folks saying, "Oh my goodness, it's hard to keep help because folks are moving on from the lower wage jobs"?
And I've been hearing that the before inflation really spiked. I was hearing that before, that people don't want to work. I'm not paying them enough, or I don't have attractive benefits. And I face that in my job too, as a project manager. I see that with my crew. The Commonwealth was only paying $13.50 for seasonal help, and people were like, "Hey, thanks for the job offer. It sounds like a great project, but um, I'm going to go work at Cumberland Farms, and I'm going to get paid $15 an hour to $18 an hour. I'm going to get benefits, paid holidays, and tuition reimbursement, and free Slurpees. Life is good." And unfortunately, I couldn't match that benefit. So I know I've been shorthanded the last 2 years. And now I'm curious to see what happens this year, because I know folks are paying a little bit more and trying to outcompete each other to get help. So I definitely hear that here in the community.
So what are you hearing in regards to the budget? Is it going to be a tight another interesting year to see if in fact the town's going to have to seek an override, or are things looking on the upswing?
Yeah, I don't. There's no override this year, unless someone comes with a big project that requires it. But that kind of talk would have to be happening 2 years ago to get to the point where we would hear it now. So there's no override this year that I know of, and I see it being, we have to be fiscally conservative, as I've always said. That's who I am. Let's make sure that we're not spending all our money, but I don't mind spending money where it needs to be spent. But we're looking like we're in a good spot this year. Right now it's too early to know where the schools are coming in. And that kind of is the big player. That's one of our biggest line items in our budget, is the schools. So whatever they decide kind of impacts everyone else. But last year we were very fortunate enough to have citizens that see the need for the override, and I can't say thank you enough for everyone that had voted for it and everyone that pays their taxes. It really makes a difference in the community, and I think we would be having a different conversation right now, Kevin, if that didn't pass. But right at the moment, we're looking at a good budget for this coming year.
Looking ahead, what are some of the things that you're hoping for as we move into 2022? Whether they come to fruition or not is another thing, but one can always hope.
Yeah, so what I'm hoping for right now is I'm hoping that we have a lot of new people on staff. And when you have 10, 12 new employees, when you only have 20 employees or 25 employees in town hall, that's half your work staff, or half your workforce. And it the big thing is making sure everyone can come together, and understand that, there's going to be a little bit of change, and change, change can be a scary thing, but at the same time too, it could be a good thing. And we just all have to embrace each other. We just have to learn how to communicate with each other. And if that happens, I think I see good things happening. We have a new highway director, and he has some great ideas. We have a new town planner, who also has some really great ideas. So I think if everyone can come together and say, what can we do? What can we do to make the town better? I think we'll see a really good year in 2022. But with that being said, I'm going to be a realist. It all depends on what happens. Who knows? And maybe another strand of COVID is going to come through and set us back a couple of steps. But I see us coming out of the gates. We're coming out of the gates strong, and we just have to be strategic how we move forward to see the town succeed.
You just touched upon something, and I want to give you an opportunity to kind of expand upon it a bit. You look at like a bigger community like Brockton, who a couple of years ago they actually hired a town planner, a city planner, and that has done wonders. What is your thought in regards to hiring a town planner, and what are some of the things that can be realized in Hanson?
Right. So right at the moment with and I'll say the city planner over in Brockton, I work with on a daily basis almost, and he's done wonders for the cities, and the city is really coming around. So kudos to Rob May over in Brockton, and I see that same potential here in Hanson. I'm not going to stand here and live in la la land, but I think that a town planner can really harvest a lot of economic benefits to a community. I know Laura Kemet and this Small Business Association, as well as the Main Street committees working together with the new town administrator and the town planner and OCPC, which is the Old Colony Planning Council. They're all working together to try to get something up and coming for down there. But the big thing is Hanson's strategic plan. Every town has a strategic plan of what they hope to see the town become in the next 10 years. And unfortunately, our plan has been outdated for 10 years, 10, 15 years, and it's been just left on the shelf. So the big thing is, we need to go redo this strategic town planning. And with Tony at the realm now, I know he's excited about it. He has some really great ideas of how to make things work in the town, not just on Main Street, but throughout the town. And we just have to do some strategy sessions and figure it all out. But they can make a huge difference for sure. I know our former town planner, Deb Petty, she wrote so many grants that it was incredible. And to have that influx of cash on one-time projects was really, really helpful, because then you don't have to go and try to find it and erase it from taxation. It was one-time money from a grant that we don't have to pay back, which is great.
This is the part of the conversation. I like to call it the blank check question. This is a question that maybe I may not have asked you. This is your opportunity to kind of fill in that line as to something that you want to kind of touch upon real quick as we close out the show.
Sure. So blank check. With where we are right now, staffing levels, we need to pay attention to staffing levels. Our town hall hasn't seen a new position in town hall since the 90s, because it was a bylaw that we just overturned this past fall. So we haven't hired any new positions in town hall for over 22 years. And you look at our offices and they're understaffed. Our town clerk has two positions. Other towns our size have 4. Our selectman's office has 2 positions, and others have 3 to 5. And we really need to invest in our workforce if we want to see the town succeed and be efficient and just move forward.
Well, Matt, I want to thank you so much for being my guest for this segment and doing a little bit of catch up. We thank you so much.
Kevin, it's always a pleasure, and thank you very much. Great to see you.
He is Matt Dyer. He is the chairman for the Hanson Board of Selectmen. He has been our guest. And you have been watching Municipal Focus. We want to thank you so much for tuning in. Until our next conversation, be healthy and have a good day.